Student loan debt is all the rage. Joe Biden doesn't agree with Chuck Schumer, who doesn't agree with Nancy Pelosi, and there's a big infighting going on over there. Really interesting story that happened earlier in the week, but we had interviews going on, so we didn't really get to it. Also, the CDC put out some new mandates, and obviously everybody's heard of that, but interesting critics coming from the New York Times. Really interesting article that came out, I think, Tuesday or Wednesday, again, earlier in the week, but we didn't get to it because we had Kevin Kiley on yesterday, talked about a lot of great stuff. Anyways, great show for you today. We're talking about the student loan debt, which is crazy, and the CDC mandates that came out earlier this week. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is the Jobob Show, and it starts right about now.
2, 1.
Here we go! Live from a dingy bunker completely cut off from the outside world. Today is July 30th, the year of our Lord 2021. This is the Jobob Show. My name is Jobob. Thanks for tuning in. We got a fun one. We've got the student loan disagreement within the Democratic Party, which is always fun to see, selfishly. And we've got the CDC putting out new mandates and some interesting critics coming from people that you wouldn't expect them to come from. But before we talk about that, I really want to tell you about Capitalist Propaganda. I'm wearing my favorite Capitalist Propaganda t-shirt today. Capitalist Propaganda is the best way to tell your friends that their socialist ideas totally suck. Apparently, we have to defend capitalism. I wasn't aware that that was still a thing that we had to do. Capitalist Propaganda has a bunch of fun gear. This is just cool designs. This is my favorite one. Go ahead, use your iPhone to tweet about how much you hate me. So go ahead on over to capitalistpropaganda.us. Get the gear that tells your friends that their socialist ideas totally suck. Capitalistpropaganda.us. Promote capitalism, because apparently, again, we have to. So before we get into the stories of the day, I want to introduce a guy really quick. I don't know if you remember a couple months ago, there was a massive viral video of this college kid arguing with his professor because his professor said that the police are bad or terrible people, and she wouldn't call it. Well, I'm just going to play the clip for you right now, and you can see what I'm talking about.
Well, I agree with you on that point of they should, right?
Okay, so what is your bottom line point? You're saying police officers should be revered, viewed as heroes? They belong on TV shows with children?
Yeah,
I think they are heroes in a sense because they come to your need and they come and help you, and they have a problem just like every other business, but we should fix that. But I think they're heroes. Well,
I think that's the problem. It's looking at it as a business because they're actually supposed to protect and serve the people.
They do protect us. What do we call when we're in trouble and someone has a knife or a gun?
I wouldn't call the police.
Why wouldn't you call the police?
I don't trust them. My life's in more danger.
Who would you call?
In their presence.
Professor, who would you call?
I wouldn't call anybody.
Well, would you have, if someone intruded your house with a gun, would you have a gun on you, or
no?
Who would you call?
It's my time to go.
It's my time to go. Fun clip. That clip blew up. The kid's name is Braden Ellis. And interestingly enough, Braden's now working for us on the Daily Caller side, doing some help with the Daily Caller quality control show and helping produce this show. And he joins us today. Braden, how's it going, man?
Good. Thanks for having me. Having me. I appreciate it.
So that was a whirlwind of an experience for you, I bet.
Yes, that was definitely, now I can say it's a throwback to see that video.
When was that? Like May?
That was April 30th on a Wednesday around 12 o'clock.
Oh,
right before lunch.
You remember it exactly because, I would imagine, given that it's a life-altering moment that got you catapulted to the national media spotlight very quickly. I would imagine that Tuesday, if somebody would have said, hey, you're going to be on all the talk shows tomorrow, you'd probably like, what?
Yeah, I remember I was talking to my mom the previous day about that speech I was giving, and in that video you just saw, that was a Q&A section to my class. Okay. And maybe 10 minutes before that part in the Zoom call, I gave a speech about 7 minutes uninterrupted about cancel culture. And I told my mom the previous day, that's a communications class, by the way. It's a verbal communications class. So it has nothing to do with politics. And I told her, I sat my mom down and I said, I never came out as conservative in this class, but you know what I'm going to do, Mom? I'm going to press the nuclear button. I didn't think that button would going to land me on Fox News and all these things. And, you know, I guess you say catapult to the top, I guess. But yeah, that was definitely a whirlwind. So I do remember the date. Yes.
That's hilarious. Well, yeah, anyways, good to have you. Again, for those of you who don't know, Braden's helping us produce the show as well as do some work on the Daily Caller end with quality control. Really fun episode coming out. Just shameless self-promotion here. We did the women's soccer pay gap. It's actually pretty interesting. A lot of stuff that people don't necessarily know about that. But today, I think we wanted to get into, so the CDC put out new guidelines for mask mandates and all that sort of stuff. They didn't say that everybody everywhere should wear masks, but they did say in hotbed areas, they want to recommend people going indoors with masks and all that jazz. Interesting, though, the New York Times actually came out with a pretty critical piece criticizing, not critical, important, criticizing the CDC. And it was just interesting seeing the New York Times, which, again, not a right-wing news outlet, come out and say things like, let's start with the polarization problem. The parts of the country that would benefit the most from the new crackdown of COVID-19, including frequent mask wearing, are also the places least likely to follow the CDC guidance. Many of these communities have been rejecting the advice of medical experts, I don't believe in experts, that's not a real thing, for months on both masks and vaccines. So the New York Times is saying what we're all thinking.
Yeah. No, it's ridiculous. And, you know, I don't know if you saw the Secretary of Defense yesterday, Lloyd Austin.
He's got a big, right. Oh, I'm going to see if I can find a photo of that. Yes, keep going, whatever you're saying. That's, it's,
what a clown. I mean, you know, if he really wants to protect himself against COVID, maybe he could drop a few pounds and get some vitamins, but wearing a mask and a shield is ridiculous, right? Tucker said it best. So just ridiculous.
Yeah, so if you didn't see this, Lloyd Austin yesterday was wearing, let's see, this. Oh, no, we've got an ad blocker. Give me one quick second. So this is worth it, trust me. Lloyd Austin showed up to an event in, you've got to be kidding me. There we go. Wow. There he is, wearing his big mask and face shield that comes all the way around. And I'm not the type of guy that's gonna blame it. Like, if you want to do that, that's fine. It's gonna come with ridicule, and I'm going to make fun of you. But anyways, so the CDC goes out and says that we need to mask up only in certain areas. The problem is that only those certain areas aren't going to pay attention. The New York Times piece continues, yet these are the communities that the CDC is trying to influence the most. In its updated guidance, the agency did not recommend that all vaccinated people, again, begin wearing masks indoors. The CDC only said that those vaccinated living in an area of substantial or high transmission should do so, and published a map online. And so their map online says if you live in this area, again, the same areas where nobody's listening to the CDC to begin with, you need to wear a mask, because that's apparently following the science. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, you know, I get the Wall Street Journal every morning, and if you're vaccinated, it just has a article that came out and said COVID amongst vaccinated still very rare. Okay. And I think that, you know, you look at LA County was the first one to do like a mask mandate throughout their county, and that's where I live. And you see that the people are just getting more into fear. They see more double masks now. And these people are vaccinated. I understand they want to protect their neighbor, but I disagree with the fact of a mandate of people in suits telling me what I need to be doing with my health, because I think my health is between my doctor and myself. And, you know, the CDC, a lot of people are losing trust in them, and with good reason.
Not starting to, have been. Remember, the CDC and the FDA are the ones that in the 70s said Butter is bad for you. Margarine, on the other hand, is much better for you. There is not a thing that is worse to put in your body besides other than margarine. What are the worst possible things that you could put into your body? The CDC recommended over the natural butter churning process. So, and this is just one example. They also, the FDA and big cereal, because big cereal's a lobby, said that you should eat cereal for breakfast. How about you eat carbs and sugar instead of bacon and eggs? Yeah, great idea.
So, yeah, I get it. A lot of people don't get it, and the CDC. Okay. You look at Fauci. That's one guy. He is not a saint. I am not with him, but a lot of people are not trusting the CDC, and it's sad because it should be a nonpartisan government institution.
Are you talking about this, Dr. Fauci? This is a book that Braden sent me earlier. That is a book of how a boy from Brooklyn became America's doctor. Illustrated and written by not Dr. Fauci. Dr. Fauci did not put this out. He's probably not making any money. But it's for sale on Amazon. So Dr. Fauci is now an American hero with a new book out. We're not writing books about police officers or astronauts or military folk. Writing about the CDC guy who made us do a lot of things that turned out to be not entirely accurate. And here's the thing. I don't actually think Dr. Fauci is a bad guy. I don't necessarily believe that he's out to destroy the world. But at the same time, you got to get a new face in there. Like anytime he's so polarizing now. Anytime he comes on the screen, you either have people that are like, "Oh, he's the best thing since sliced bread," or people that are like, roll their eyes and turn the channel. There can't be only one very old infectious disease doctor to trot out in front of the cameras. CDC or the government itself just needs to get somebody else in there, regardless of what you think of them. But anyways, the New York Times, I just want to keep reading on this article. I'm getting a little sidetracked, Braden. I don't know if this is you or this is me. I'm just all over the place today. Who then is most likely to listen to the CDC's new request that vaccinated people wear masks indoors? People who live in places that it will do the least good. This tends to be politically liberal, highly vaccinated communities where people have been willing to wear masks even more often than the scientific evidence suggests. For example, outdoors. Like if you go to San Francisco, the CDC guidance would work great in San Francisco, where people wear masks outside by themselves, hundreds of yards away from the next person. So anyways, it's interesting that the New York Times, of all places, is calling out the bogus CDC messaging, really. And again, these science, I don't know if I disagree with the CDC. I'm not an infectious disease expert, but just the overall messaging. Like, dude, like whose mind do you think you're going to change? Yeah.
I look at, the people that take a jog outside with their mask on, and it's like, I just feel like you're living in fear in some ways, because wearing a mask is you're breathing in carbon monoxide. It's not good. You have people that are now not so political, they're apolitical, and they're looking at it like, hey, I got my vaccine, and I thought that was my ticket out of not wearing a mask. Now you're telling me to wear a mask. And now those people that aren't so political are getting more angry. And now it's the typical, it's the government pitting one group versus another, the unvaccinated versus the vaccinated. You heard Biden said, if you're not vaccinated, you're not as smart as I think you are. Okay,
which is weird coming out of him.
Yeah, it's weird coming from him, right? So, and the New York Times, like you just brought it up, they are extremely left, and they've never been a Trump-loving newspaper. So you're going to start seeing a lot of other newspapers and articles coming out being like, okay, how far we want to go with this, guys?
The clear messaging is one of the most powerful tools that the public health officials have, but only when they use it. The CDC and the Biden administration did not use it. They failed to convey whether or not they wanted the entire country to begin changing its behavior, or whether they wanted to focus on some certain regions, which happens to be very places that they won't reach to begin with. So really interesting, the New York Times coming out and saying that the CDC rollout of this new guidance was just bumbled up. Here's my thought on this. I've been working in entertainment for a long time. I consider politics entertainment now because it's the same industry. Anyways, your lefty groups, which again are more like the CDC, that say that they are super concerned, they have one goal in mind. You guys have all of the entertainment world on your side. Find a producer or a writer to write up something that makes sense to the American people, because they're all with you. You use them at your disposal. Go get Hollywood to trot out something for you that makes sense, rather than putting out some bumbling, well, maybe you need to maybe not wear a mask if you're maybe vaccinated, maybe not, maybe you should, maybe I don't know. It doesn't seem like it's doing anybody any good.
Did you see where, I think it was maybe a couple weeks ago, where they sent out Bill de Blasio from New York City to eat a slice of pie? You see my shirt? I'm wearing a pizza shirt because it's Friday. And, you know, it's
Pizza
like
Friday.
Pizza Friday, baby.
Yeah.
And this guy's scarfing down a piece of pizza. And it's like, de Blasio is the best salesman that you got to get people vaccinated. Oh my gosh, what a joke. And he's like slamming a pizza and he's like shoving it. It's disgusting.
Better than Cuomo, though. Better than Governor Cuomo.
Yeah, that's true.
So I feel like we beat a dead horse on that. So again, the CDC making some ridiculous announcements, which again, whether or not you agree on the science thing, the rollout of it has just been terrible. We want to talk about the student loan debt crisis. Really interesting. A bunch of the leaders in the Democrat side are at odds against each other with what they should do. So we want to talk about that. But really quick before that, I want to tell you about capitalist propaganda. Apparently, we need to fight for capitalism because that's a thing that we have to do in 2021. Everybody thought that was going to be over with in like the 60s or the 70s, maybe even the 90s. But apparently capitalism needs to be stood up for, and that is what capitalistpropaganda.us is doing. It's providing you with all of your favorite gear to tell your friends that their socialist ideas totally suck with some capitalist propaganda gear. You're welcome. Love capitalism because, of course, everything that you have that is good is caused by capitalism. Capitalism rocks. So head on over to capitalistpropaganda.us, get your favorite capitalist propaganda gear, and tell your friends that their socialist ideas totally suck. And speaking of socialist ideas, the Biden administration on the campaign trail went out and said, we are going to do something about the student loan debt crisis. Whether or not it's a crisis. If that's a crisis and the border isn't a crisis, I don't know if that's actually a crisis. But the student loan debt crisis is what's being called in the media. Biden campaigned hard on that at the very beginning. Obviously, when you're in the primary, you got to go as far to your side as humanly possible, and then you come back centrist. There was that one clip, I should have had it, where Biden was in a town hall and some girl asked him, what will you do to give $50,000 to student loan debt relief? And he said, I won't. So that was comforting to see. But there's now this new push by people like your AOCs, your Rashida Tlaib, your Ilhan Omar's, that whole squad, saying that student loan debt should be canceled. We should cancel student loan debt. Here's what's interesting about that. Nancy Pelosi then came 2 days ago and said this.
And you ever want to know, will you let me know? People think that the President of the United States has the power for debt forgiveness. He does not. He can postpone, he can delay, but he does not have that power. That has to be an act of Congress.
So Nancy Pelosi, correct there in saying that it has to be an act of Congress, whether or not it even should go. Now, here's the thing. Nancy Pelosi is not dumb. If Nancy Pelosi thought that the polling was on her side, then she would say, yeah, Joe Biden should initiate something that's going to cancel debt. But that's not what she's saying. She's pushing back against the Democrat president because she understands that the majority of Americans aren't going to be on their side with paying back student loan debt. Braden, you're in college. Would you like the government to pay for your student loans or any student loans that you may take out?
No, and I know there's a lot of friends that I have that say, you know, I liked Biden because I'm in debt and I know that he's going to come to my rescue and cancel it out. Well, that's not going to come true. And just because you cancel student debt, this is the misconception a lot of people my age have is, okay, when you cancel student debt or something like that, and it doesn't just poof and it's gone, it goes somewhere else, it circulates back somewhere else, whether that be taxes, property taxes, or some kind of deal. And it's just like
Stoffel. There's no such thing as a free lunch. Somebody pays for it.
There's no such thing as a free lunch. And I don't want the government, I don't have student loan debt, but if I did, I wouldn't want them canceling it because I know it's going to come back to haunt me when I buy and purchase a home and my wife starts, yelling at me about it. So I don't know.
There's some disconnect. There's some disconnect in the Democratic Party. This is from CNBC. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, Senator Elizabeth Warren, Representative Ayanna Pressley have all repeated the call for Joe Biden to forgive $50,000 in federal loan debt to all borrowers through executive action. USA Today, about $1.7 trillion in student debt is owed by about 44 million Americans. Federal Reserve data shows that figure has more than doubled since 2008. But here's the thing. Only about a third of Americans have a bachelor's degree, which is an interesting thing that all of the people are going, and of a third, even a fraction of that still have debt that is quote unquote crippling. Look, does being $100,000 in debt suck? Yes, it does. But Senator Kennedy, who's often says a bunch of fun,
he's great,
outlandish things all the time, said, well, why not credit card debt? Why not car payment debt? Why not home mortgage debts? These are all debts that would benefit the debtor being canceled out by the federal government. So first things first, we can't afford it. And second, if we could afford it, why student loan debt? I don't know. Why is student loan debt like a big topic for the Democrats right now?
Do you remember when I live across a politician, she lives across from me, and during COVID, there was cars and protesters that came down my street and they said, they're chanting, cancel rent, cancel debt. Why don't we cancel my dad's mortgage? We'd love that. We won't have to pay anything.
Sure.
Yeah. And it's just, my experience in college is they play on the college students' emotions because at this young age, like we're emotional and very impressionable. So when they say, oh, cancel our debt, and people are like, heck yeah, of course. I'd love to not have any debt. And Senator Kennedy's right with, why don't we get rid of car payments and everything? But it's just like, you can't live in the world of the make-believe. It's just not reality. So people got to wake up on that issue, definitely. And it's funny that Pelosi and Schumer are at arguments. I'd love to see how they argue. I really would love to see that. It'd be interesting.
Well, I think Schumer's not actually thinking that. He's just afraid of getting primaried by AOC. I think that's his thing. He's got to go as hard to the left as possible, or else AOC is going to try and take him out in the primaries, and he doesn't want that. But okay, here's the other interesting statistic that I feel like nobody is talking about. So when you talk about canceling student debt, who does that benefit? The top 20% get 6 times more benefit from student debt cancellation than the bottom 20%. So the Democrat Party, whose claims to be proponents of the lower and middle class, would help out the elites of the country by canceling student debt, because college graduates on average make 85% more over their lifetime than high school diploma recipients. So what you're saying, AOC, Elizabeth Warren, Chuck Schumer, all of these Democrats that want to cancel debt, is that you're trying to prop up people that are already at the top, which is the least progressive thing the Democrats would have been able to do as long as I can remember. Debt forgiveness at the college loan debt forgiveness, if you want to say that systematic racism exists and the people at the bottom are systematically racially oppressed, canceling college debt is then racist because you're helping the people at the top continue their progression to further at the top. It blows my mind. This is the least progressive thing Democrats could possibly do, is cancel student debt. Because like I said, it helps the people at the top and does nothing for the people at the bottom. because they didn't go to college and they don't have any debt in the college debt. Senator, not Ted Kennedy, Senator Kennedy would say that, why not other debt? Like, if you're going to help out, again, we shouldn't do it regardless. But if you're going to help out people in debt, go help out the car payments, or like, because we're in a, we shouldn't. And that's just, again, a ridiculous example, because we shouldn't do it to begin with. But if you're going to, why college debt? Because that's the thing that's going to prop up the people that are already at the top, the people that are already making more money, which is, again, the least progressive thing I've ever seen come out of the Democratic Party, who claim to be fighting for the middle and low class. Get out of here with that crap.
Well, you look at like almost every issue with that party, and you like surface wise, it sounds great. It looks cool. It may be great for you, but when you dig deeper and you actually get into the brass tacks of things and their policies, just like this one, you just dug into the straight numbers and you found out that it does affect the people that are minority race. And you pointed out that can conclude to systematic racism. And people are like, that would shake them up. That would be crazy to them, because on the surface, it sounds great. But when you dig deeper and get to brass tacks, it's a totally crazy idea. So you're right. You're totally right.
Yeah, it's insane that's even in consideration at the moment. I'm going to read you another. I'm going to read you another fun article that may be true. It wasn't written to be true, but I think this is hilarious. From the Babylon Bee, a hardworking plumber looking forward to paying his neighbor's gender study degree. One local plumbing contractor, Sam Cotton, is really looking forward to paying the tab on his neighbor's $89,000 gender studies degree. Listen here, I'm just a plumber, he said. I didn't go to college, but I work hard and I support my family. I don't know about all this highfalutin gender stuff they teach in college, but I'm sure it must be important since it's so expensive. Happy to help out a person in need, which is, again, to beat a dead horse. You're saying that the lower income people, the middle class people that didn't go to college, work blue collar jobs, are going to fork the bill for your $89,000 gender studies degree? Get out of here with that crap. Again, least progressive thing I've ever seen. It is absolutely ridiculous.
It's so ridiculous. And that one's not so far-fetched. I feel like that one could be true. They pay for like a lesbian dance theory class or something like that. That would be fun. That's a thing. At least in my college it is, but I might sign up for it. I don't know. But it's just it is ridiculous. But that, obviously they're funny. Like The Onion is funny too, but some of those are really like it makes you scratch your head, be like, that's not too far-fetched the way we're going, but I don't know. So yeah, it is ridiculous on that front. Yes.
Local gender studies major Amber White is looking forward to having all of her debt forgiven, thanks in part to the contributions of plumbers like Sam. I'm so thankful for the generosity of our Democratic leaders, she said. They really make it looking out for the small folks. Also, down with capitalism and white men.
Touching. I'm with her all the way. Touching.
Yeah. So it's just a hilarious prospect. We have some fun comments from the comment stream. Nope, especially college loan is useful degree or failed at getting a degree, because again, there's a lot of people out there that didn't get a degree. They just went to college and dropped out, which is a whole other conversation. Colleges are admitting too many people that shouldn't be in college, and it's a disservice to those kids. The college it's terrible that they're doing that, but those kids still are saddled with debt, and some of them don't even graduate. Some go for 3 years, figure out they can't hack it, and then holy crap, you're still $100,000 in debt.
Right.
But this is probably the more, I don't know, standard approach. No, you borrowed it, you paid for it. It's called responsibility. I paid for mine. Part of my children's and grandchildren's. This is what the Biden lie to get elected. It was, he campaigned on being able to eliminate student debt. And one, it's not possible. We shouldn't do it. Two, it doesn't. It's only going to make things more expensive. And three, what does that mean for all the other people that didn't go to college? That it's just a ridiculous.
Yeah, it was a sales pitch to kids my age, and he had to find some kind of talking point and approach to kids my age besides, Biden likes to smell people's hair and everything, but that was his sales pitch, and I understand why. But yeah, and in reality, you get down to the brass tacks. Like I said, it's not true. And John, he just commented that it's true. I agree with you on that.
So if you missed any of this wild ranting about the CDC mask mandates, and the New York Times also coming out and saying this is ridiculous, this doesn't make any sense, as well as the college loan debt, whatever disagreements coming out of the Democratic Party, go catch the podcast. It should be in the show links. Braden Ellis, thanks for coming on today. Really enjoyed the conversations. Had a lot of fun doing it. And again, if you haven't seen Braden's video on the internet, it's hilarious. Do you want to talk about that at all? Are you good? Do you think we?
I do.
Yeah.
Thank you, number one, for having me on the show. It's an honor, and I appreciate it a lot. Secondly, yes, the video with Cypress College and my professor was a very interesting one. But I do want to say to people that are listening and you don't really know what's going on with college, and you just send your kid there, really make sure you know what they're learning about in college, because this was one of the first of its kind video, because people have read articles about a professor going off about how they don't like Trump or whatever, and they hate conservatives or something. The first of its kind video, because this is a live video that you get to see that was supposed to be private, but was leaked because of the way that she was treating me as a conservative. That's not the worst example that she's ever done. But, it's not the only case. You have many other people throughout the country, and that happened through my social media, that reached out and said, my professors treat me like garbage, and I just don't feel like I have a voice. So if you have any kids that are, or nieces or grandchildren or whatever, encourage them and plant seeds for them to speak up against this liberal indoctrination that's going on through campus.
Yeah. Well, awesome, Braden. Thanks so much. Producer Braden Ellis will be with us probably more frequently in the near future. Thanks so much for joining us today, Braden. Have a great rest of your day. Before we close, I want to do some shameless self-promotion. Quality Control on Daily Caller, the newest, hottest, biggest show. We basically try to be the John Oliver of the conservative side. This week we talked about women's soccer and their whole competitive pay rate thing. It's actually really interesting. A lot of things you might not think about the women's soccer being paid fairly or unfairly, depending on how you look at things. But a lot of stuff that we kind of uncovered and kind of tried to explain in a short, cohesive way. So check that out this weekend on Daily Caller, Quality Control. We've also got a bunch of different episodes like the border not crisis, critical race theory in schools. Let me see, COVID and the whole school pandemic, the White House censoring Facebook and talking about how they should be in line with the science. A lot of great stuff on Quality Control over on Daily Caller. Check it out when you get a chance. Also, thank you to Capitalist Propaganda. Tell your friends that socialist ideas totally suck with the coolest capitalist propaganda gear. Turn some heads. People will be looking at your shirt thinking, capitalist propaganda, isn't that a bad thing? And then you can maybe have a conversation with them about how capitalism is awesome. Thank you so much for tuning into the Jobob Show. We will see you on Monday. Have a great weekend. Goodbye.